How would you address violent crime in our community?
Well, violent crime is one of the #1 issues that we have here in Macon-Bibb County. And back when I decided to run back in 2018, I identified crime as the most important issue. Violent crime in particular are those that prevent businesses from coming here, people from feeling safe in their homes. So there's a few ways that we would do that. #1, with the education that we have in our school system, I think you have to have a better educated student to teach them those things that you need to teach in school to make sure they have more opportunities to get better jobs, therefore to decrease violence. But the #1 issue right now is public safety. Public safety, we're 150 officers short in the police department, and I think that's the #1 thing that we have to address to start with. I do have several plans on how to address that issue, but I think it's going to start there with more community policing and more officers and boots on the ground.
You mentioned your plans. Can you share?
Sure. One of those things is what I call Justice Works. It's a program that I created, of course, by the name of Justice Works, but it's something that's been used for best practices across the United States, and I've been studying it for a long time. What Justice Works is a work release program for nonviolent felonies, that nonviolent felonies that people commit that are in jail now. And what they would do is they would go to work while they're in jail, incarcerated, and while they're in jail, they would actually pay to live there each week, pay for their transportation to and from job, and the child support, if they have children to take care of, will be taken care of by, from their income tax or from the check that they're earning there. One of the things that's worked well in other places is you keep the family structure together. You also have the person learn how to manage their budget, and they pay for things as they go along. So how does that help with public safety? It creates a situation where instead of paying $55 a day, we're paying about $20 a day. Instead of someone getting out and being homeless after they get out of jail, they've had 12 months at least if they've had a job and they've had an employment and they have a check stub, so they can get a residence. Also, they're current on their child support and they have a job that they can go back to. The reason this is important with public safety is because instead of having 24 officers, say, under lock and key at the jail in one particular wing that we're already paying, you have a least restrictive environment, a less restrictive environment somewhere nearby where you can actually have 8 to 10 officers that are there working, because these inmates will be going to and from work every day. That frees up about 14, 15 police officers that we're already paying that can be out patrolling the streets. That's just one program that we have that can increase the police presence that we have on the street. Another way we can do that is by bringing back some of the retired deputies that have retired from Bibb County. If you take them on as part-time employees, you can put them in jobs in patrolling, working at the courthouse, maybe guarding at the county government center, and they can work up to 20 hours a week there without getting the natural benefits that an officer would get. And the officers that are presently in those positions can be back on the streets and providing safety for our community.
What would you do to tackle blight?
Well, blight is one of those things where I see in my business as an attorney, and also I see it every day with our school systems. One thing I proposed earlier to the county is to have our school system work more closely with the county as a taxing entity. We requested to be a part of the land bank there at Macon-Bibb County, to have a permanent board member there. And the reason I wanted to do this is because the county doesn't have a lot of money set aside for blight right now. And the way they used blight in the past, monies in the past, is they basically gave each commissioner a certain amount of money that they used in their districts. And I believe that was a complete waste of time. We don't see a lot of benefits of it. And it's more of a pork barrel project. So one thing I proposed is to use some money from the SPLOST, the E-SPLOST that we passed with the school system, a couple $1 million. And we would begin with the neighborhoods that were the most severe. For example, if you go around Pleasant Hill, L.H. Williams, and you go to a Central High School area, you'll notice there's a lot of burned houses, a lot of houses that are dilapidated in those areas. The school system could use the money for the E-SPLOST to tear those houses down and rebuild those houses. Normally you can't do that unless you have an educational purpose, and the educational purpose would be providing much needed jobs to our students, internships to our students. So they would actually go in there with the contractor, they would help demolish the house, they would actually go get the permits, they would learn valuable things like HVAC and plumbing and getting permitted in carpentry, and at the same time they would get a per diem, they'll get a little money in their pocket. But the whole goal is to teach them a trade, to help them get a job, and also to restore that neighborhood the way it should be restored. At the end of that time, that house would be sold, perhaps to a police or firefighter or a veteran or somebody to maintain that neighborhood together. one of the problems we've had in Bibb County, and I see it as an attorney, is we have a lot of air property out there. We have a certain segment of our community, which is mainly African-American segment, that's had a lot of poverty in it. And what happens is someone would pass away, and they'll leave property from air to air to air, and no one would even know how many people own the house or they owned it, so you couldn't borrow money on the house, you couldn't fix it up, and you could never gain title to the property. So one of the things that I've done in my law practice for the last several years, actually since I started practicing back in 1994, is we do free wills, last will and testaments for certain groups that we target, so make sure that they have a proper structure set up so we can take care of some of these problems. The other thing is the enforcement issue. We don't have enough people out there enforcing it because our government hasn't prioritized the people needed to actually make sure that this is taken care of. And the last thing I'll say is the policy, on the school board, we've changed every single policy since I've been there. We went through and reviewed it and brought modern the things that we needed to and got rid of the things we didn't. We can be better policymakers down at the government center to make sure that we cut through a lot of the red tape and we speed up the process. Fortunately, Wade McCord with the tax office, Bibb County Tax Commissioner, has taken the steps to start on some of that, and I certainly support him and what he's doing. I think that's something that we can expand, and we've seen successful results from it.
How would you prioritize spending to improve road conditions, road safety, and traffic concerns?
Well, I think I've been going neighborhood to neighborhood right now myself, and a lot of times particular areas of Macon have been abandoned. If you look at the Jeffersonville Road project, it's been going on for the last 16 years without a completion date. If you look at the Lizelle area, most people that live out in Lizelle and Sub-South, they complain about the potholes in the road areas that we have. Eventually we're going to have to consider getting together to do a T-Splosh. T-Splosh is one of those things where it hasn't been very popular, and Bibb County certainly hasn't supported in the numbers they needed to for a long time. One of the reasons I believe it has failed is because there's been a lack of trust in the local government. Most people realize that the school system has passed 2 different E-Sploshs in the last 8 years that we were able to successfully complete, and that 1 cent sales tax makes millions and millions of dollars worth of improvements in our school system. The county government has been unable to put together a T-Splosh because people simply don't trust that additional penny going to where it's supposed to go. When you look at that project, like I said, at Jeffersonville Road, we're already talking about the Bass Road expansion that we have out in Bass Road. They're saying it's going to be 6 years before we even begin that process. But planning and zoning and other businesses, they have already developed so much out there, then that issue is already going to be a problem before it even gets started being built. So what we'll do is look at the possibility of a T-Splosh in the near future, but also make sure we're taking care of the maintenance and improvements as we go along with our employees and make sure that we're prioritizing the money that's being spent for those.
Of course, that was sort of a 3-pronged thing. Anything else you'd like to comment on concerning road safety? I know pedestrian fatalities and accidents have been a big issue lately. Is there anything you'd like to speak to on that?
Well, I've attended the pedestrian review safety boards, and I know that there's a lot of counties outside of Bibb County that didn't have as problem as we have. Our infrastructure is way outdated. If you go down to one of the most key areas that I see is Gray Highway. Each and every day, if you go to Gray Highway, you'll see 4 or 5 people cross the road just on one trip to a restaurant to eat or one trip to get gas on Gray Highway. We need better lighting. That's something that we can use our SPOS funds for. We need better sidewalk and maintenance out in that area. We need better striping out in those areas. I think some of that's starting to take fruition now because of the number of deaths that we have. We also have to educate the public on what you should be wearing, where you should be going. But I understand that the need for some folks that go to grocery stores, you don't want to walk 1.5 miles before you can cross a road. And we have to be better at that. And I think it's been largely neglected for a long time, and it's something we've got to make improvements on. I think we have the money there to do it without raising taxes.
What can the county government do to assist with improvements in the Bibb County school system?
Well, I think the county needs to be a better partner. I think in the last couple of years we've worked together a little bit better, but I think there's some services that we could work together on to improve our whole community as a whole. The library system is one of those things where we could actually work together better on. I think the land bank I told you about, by giving an opportunity there to work together. Too many times we live in our own silos with the county, and it's us against them. And even though we're separate taxing authorities, we should work together for all of our people. I think that involving board members and board of education faculty and staff and parents and stakeholders in local government on boards would be one step in the right direction. For instance, when you have new appointments that come up, not many times do you look at people associated with education on those boards. And I think you need an educator's viewpoint on a lot of issues that we have, and I think we can work together better as a government and as a school system when we put things like that together. So that's one of the areas I think we could work better on. I think financially we have a lot of services that overlap, and I think we could work better. We could work better together on museums, quality of life things. Museum of Arts and Sciences comes to mind because one of the biggest users of that facility from a local standpoint is our students, and I think we can work better with our museums and our school students to make sure we're getting that benefit and also to be able to help financially on that.
Is there a county department, besides the sheriff's office, that you think is under or overstaffed, and what changes would you make?
Well, of course, the sheriff's department and the Bibb County Fire Department. The fire department is understaffed as well. And the same information we talked about with public safety, I'm looking to put more boots on the ground with the fire department as well. They're understaffed. They've got less people working on those trucks than they should have on there. They're not earning the proper money that they should be, and we're losing a lot of them to outside areas. Other than that, the business development department, has been in the news lately. It is, if you talk to some people, it's real understaffed. You talk to other people, it's overstaffed. There's got to be a middle ground. What we've been doing there has not been working. My first choice was not to bring in the company that they brought in, but I understand that there's an urgent need and something has to be done. So I think we got to be able to listen to the business folks. One of the things that I want to do is to set up a business advisory group of local businessmen and women who go through this contractors each and every day. We have to do a better job with that division. I think the small business and the economic development part of that and the business development part of that is essential to our economy. And if we don't get that right, we don't get anything else right. So we listen to the contractors, we listen to the people who work in all these other counties, and they don't have the issues that we have in here in Bibb County. So I think one of the other focuses that we have is to bring that division to be the best we can make it in Macon-Bibb County. Georgia is the #1 place to do business, in the United States. Macon should be the #1 place to do business in the state of Georgia, and I think that's something that I look forward to doing as the next mayor of Macon.
Anything you see that's overstaffed that you would change at this point?
Well, overstaffed, I think after consolidation, there's a lot of positions that got eliminated. So you're going to have a hard time having too much staff in one particular area. I think they made a lot of cuts to personnel. I don't know where we're top heavy at this point. Looking at the budget, it looks like everybody's made significant cuts over the last several years. I think there's some wasteful spending and there's a more efficient way we can do things. But I think we got to quit relying on the taxpayer to bail us out, and we got to come up with additional money streams that I've been looking at to make sure we can come up with money outside of the taxpayers to help balance this budget.
Anything you'd like to share about those different revenue streams?
Sure. One example I posted on my social media a while back is Bibb County doesn't tax the increment on billboards and cell towers like other counties do. It's a simple tax evaluation of rent that's made off of those different towers. I own a billboard here in Macon, and I receive rental income every month on that billboard. Well, it doesn't tax me based on the rental that I make off there, only for the pure property value of the billboard itself. When we ran the numbers with a couple other jurisdictions that I reached out to, including some tax assessors that left Bibb County and went to these areas, and we figured out there were about $500,000 that should be taxed to those people. Most of them are out of town, and they're just going to pass the few dollars it would be per billboard on to the person doing the advertising there. So it's not local homeowners that we're talking about. $500,000 alone just on that revenue stream that we have there that we don't even collect. That $500,000 could be used to get 10 blight mediation contractors out there looking at all these abandoned houses and making sure people are taking all these houses and keeping them in good repair, and making sure that people, if they get fined, that they actually go to court and go through that process to eliminate blight. So these are some of the areas that we have, and there's a lot of franchise fees that Bibb County is not currently getting that other counties are getting. And I think there's many ways that we can make money and be more efficient, but that's just one example that I can give you today.
What would you do to improve race relations in our community?
Well, I think race is always the elephant in the room. I will tell you that when I came on the school board back in 2013, I came to a divided board. And that divided board had 4 African Americans and 4 Caucasians on that board. And for the very first meeting we had, we couldn't even elect a president or vice president or treasurer on that board. So I think it's something that we have to have open and honest conversations about. You know, you got to find common ground. And when I talk about common ground, if you live in North Macon or South Macon, East Macon, West Macon, or you're black or white or brown, you have to find common ground. So what do you look at? You know, I think everybody appreciates a good education. That's a good common ground that we can find between everybody of every race. Everybody wants to have a good job and have the opportunities to do better in life by educating themselves and getting a good paying job. So if we focus on those things, those are things we can find common ground. When I talked about the justice works, that's one of the things I use as an example on how to find common ground. If you're looking at somebody who's tired of paying $55 a day to house an inmate on one area or neighborhood, and most of the people that are in jail in Bibb County are African Americans. So if you look at that person in jail, they're not talking about the $55 a day. They're talking about the fact that this father is not home with his child. He's not paying child support. He's not contributing to the income of the family. So that mother that's usually there is having to make a choice between, do I provide child care for that child, or do I even work, or do I just stay home? And she's giving up valuable education and money that she could be earning for her future when this gentleman's in jail. So when you look at the black-white issue just surrounding that one thing there, you start looking at, well, you know, that's a common ground we can find. You know, the person who may be predominantly white in North Macon, you know, is paying $55 a day, and the person who may be African American who's in jail that has a family member, you've got that common ground that you want that person to do better and not be back in jail over and over again and taking care of the child like they're supposed to be taking care of the child. At the same time, you've got that interest, you know, just one there. You know, everybody has common ground. What I learned on the school board is you don't go out there and you don't try to solve all the world's problems at one time. You build trust and you have relationships. We haven't had a tie vote since that first month I was on the board. We have 8 people. It's not easy to do. You have to make concessions, you make compromises, and you listen to folks. And that's what I found. The more we listen, the more we find common ground, the more we make sacrifices and make compromises, and we get things done for all the community. So I think that is the main thing we have to do. Quit living in silos. You know, the open table was pretty good, but it doesn't bring everybody from all the community onto the table. It gets some of the same people that we talk all the time. You really have to break bread with each other, and you have to learn about each other, and you have to learn the differences in what you have in common. But the more you can find common ground and just fight the little battles at a time. Don't fight the whole war at one time. Just tackle the little things, and the more you build trust and build a relationship, then you're going to be able to solve those heavy problems when you get there. So we're going to have to start somewhere. My campaign's been about positive, been positive, not negative. I want to bring people together. I believe I'm the only candidate that can bring people together because I've lived here my entire life in each segment, from Unionville to Hillcrest to Bloomfield to all those different parts of Macon, and going to those schools. I've lived around a different variety of people with different backgrounds. And I think that's the kind of person who can bring this community together.
Is that going to be an issue in the campaign, you think?
I don't think it's going to be an issue for me. I did come in, I got elected at a time when Dr. Dallemand was the superintendent. I took office January the 1st or January the 3rd of 2013, and he left in February of 2013. Dr. Dallemand saw very quickly that he was not going to have the simple majority that he had before when we were elected. I think another thing that Dr. Dallemand learned is that when you have an attorney like myself who got on the school board, you're going to ask the right questions. You're going to look in the right places, and you're going to find the right type of things that they were trying to hide. It only took me about 60 days to realize that some of the technology issues that we had involving corruption then was readily available. And I think, is it going to be an issue here? I don't think it's going to be an issue for me. I don't plan on running a race back, my race, based on things that happened in the past, but the facts are the facts. You can't take away the fact that the school system lost millions of dollars as a result of some corruption that happened. And I was one of the person who came in, and we turned that system around both financially and educationally. So what I'm going to talk about is not necessarily about who got charged and who didn't get charged, but I'm going to talk about Bibb County presently had the highest graduation rate that's ever had in our history. Bibb County has the highest CCPRI score we've ever had in our history. Bibb County has the highest child reading on grade level than we ever had in our history. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. That happens because of hard work and dedication of our staff and our teachers, and it also happens by having the right leadership in place. Those things with the court system, we bring it to their attention, they do their job, and whatever happens, whatever happens. I don't have any vested interest in that except for the fact that 80% or 75, 80% of our kids are African American, and a large part of the folks that were charged in this case happen to be African American. That's where it opens and closes and ends for me on that situation.
What, as mayor, could you do to get that thing moving, or do you think it needs to be moving?
Well, I think if I want the OLAS to pass, I could have it pass. And the reason I say this is it's been 3 successful attempts to have the OLAS pass, and it's basically dropped because of not partisan support. When you have a local delegation that's comprised of a certain amount of Democrats and Republicans, they can't set aside their differences to do what's right for the community. But also the local delegation realize that the county government doesn't have the full faith and support of the community. The difference, I believe, when you have a new administration, number one, is there's going to be a honeymoon period that they're going to understand that we're going to try to do what's right. And I think with me having a record of doing what's right in the school system and having successfully passed 2 e-splice even after the problems we have with Romaine Dallemand and the issues they had financially there, I think it's going to be a lot easier to pass. But what we have to remember is we can't backdoor the taxpayers on getting other things done with the OLAS than the intended purpose. What most people don't understand is the law requires 100% rollback of the OLAS. This 50-50 is never going to pass legally because it would involve them changing the whole structure for all the consolidated governments in Georgia. That's just not going to happen with our local delegation, especially when you have 3 local delegations that the majority of the constituency live outside of Bibb County, not in Bibb County. So they'll actually be paying more taxes and not getting the tax break. So people tell me that the OLAS is revenue neutral. And I understand what that concept means, but the fact of the matter is we've been taxed to death in Bibb County. We've had consecutive tax increases of 3 mills and 3 mills from the county alone, and we need some tax relief. One of the ways to do that is the OLAS, but we make sure we do what we say with the money. I have put across the idea of possibly having a 1 mill designation for the public safety. It's different from the 80-20 that they were talking about now. You can't do that in the whole sense of a 1 mill designation, but what you can do is have a net result. You can say we're going to roll taxes 100% back, but you go ahead and let the taxpayers know ahead that we're also going to increase the tax by 1 mill at the same time, so they know that the net result is going to be a 6 mill rollback instead of a 7 mill. So you accomplish the same goal, but you've also fully funded that public safety department, both police and fire and first responders. So I think we can do that, but we have to get all the people on board. We're going to have to get the Republicans and Democrats to put aside their differences, and we're going to have 100% rollback. And I think that's the only way the people are going to do it. If you get it on the ballot is one thing, but getting the people to support it is going to be the other thing, and I think I can do that. I've already met with each and every one of us, spoken with the local delegation, not the ones that maybe have a challenger this time, but I've spoken with them in the past. I know why they failed, and I know what the politics was behind it. Simply together, we have to start this. The next mayor, if they're elected in May or July this year, has to begin to work on that immediately, not wait till the session starts next January, February. You got to put together a committee and a plan now on how it's going to be done, and you got to work out all the details before you even get to the next legislature. So, you don't have to worry about is it going to cross over on crossover day, because it's going to be one of the first things on the menu when you start. And that's something I do plan on doing this summer if I'm elected to be mayor.
How would you answer people who say that this community is unfairly targeting or scrutinizing minority leaders or trying to take them down?
Okay. A couple of things I can say. Number one is our school system is 75% African American. So what our school board did was prevent people from stealing money from African American students. And I say that because it's the facts. When we decided to look at numbers to see why we were losing money, why we were paying $3.2 million for a server that's worth $150,000, we didn't know if the company was red, yellow, black, or white. We had no idea the makeup of that company. What we knew is that Bibb County students were suffering, and our staff and our students and our administration were suffering because we lost that kind of money. So what we did is we went out there following the money to find out whoever it was, it was. But all we did is reveal the facts. That's all we did. The Bibb County School Board cannot charge anybody. We can't make the decision to charge anyone. We filed a civil action to recover money. We sued 16 people and we recovered money from 15 separate companies, businesses, and individuals and received a large verdict against Romaine Dallemand. So we did our part. The U.S. government has the part to do with involving who to charge. They decided based on the evidence who they were going to charge, and that was a totally separate case. So I think most people that I talk to that understand the situation and have the true facts, they know. You can look at the decision there in our case. If you look at the decision by Judge Treadwell, you'll see what happened in that case. You know, everybody's entitled to a right to have a jury trial, and whatever happens to that, we respect that verdict. As an attorney, I respect every verdict we have when we come out of there. That's just part of the process. So what I'll say is the process was open. We wanted it to go to court in our case. We revealed everything through transparency, and you can get everything in our case that was revealed, you can see on federal Pacer account right now. So in our case, it was resolved, and it's resolved successfully for our staff, our students, and our school system. So I think that's how you get around that issue with there. You know, if it becomes an issue, then we'll just hit them with the facts.
Do you have a plan or ideas of how you might alleviate that problem?
Sure. One of the things I will be doing in the realm of homelessness is making sure that we have a liaison that's appointed by the mayor to handle a lot of the nonprofits, so we can get all the nonprofits on one page, pulling in the right direction. We have some great nonprofits, some great foundations in Macon-Bibb County, but a lot of times they're not on the same page. And I think we need to have somebody that can lead them through that area to make sure we get what needs to be done. For example, we have Daybreak down there. That's a fabulous model that we can use and we can support. And I think Navicent supports that. And a lot of times when people say, you know, why you give Navicent or don't give Navicent some money, which way you end up on that, you know, that spectrum, that is one of the services that they help provide. And that's one thing we can deal with our homelessness. The Justice Works that I talked about you'll be surprised on how many people that we see that are homeless now in Macon. They have issues with employment and issues with crime that if the Justice Works program was created and it was actually utilized properly, they wouldn't be homeless. They would be in an apartment somewhere. But if you don't have a check stub saying that you've been employed for 12 months, you can't get a legitimate apartment. So you end up being homeless. Or if we have some systematic stuff that's going on where it says you can't live with this woman because you're not married, therefore we encourage them not to live together, to hold that family structure together by making those policy changes and allow that man perhaps to live there in that house, to have a two-party income. You wouldn't have a homeless person there. We're going to have to get back, instead of having our jails from being mental health facilities, to properly fund mental health. And if you look at what great job that River Edge is doing out there, and we can make sure that we get the direct financing there or support that we can get there, you're going to decrease the homelessness. There's many things that we can do on that, but it's going to take a holistic approach. It's going to take people working together, and it's going to take people that have a heart and a passion for it. And I think we have those people here in Macon, Georgia. I just think that we're not on the same page right now. And I think we're going to have to start with the jail over there. You know, unfortunately, it's cheaper for the jail to let them out because they can't afford all the medications and the hospital visits a lot of times, and they'll let them out. But it becomes our society's problem out there as a whole, and it's something that we're going to have to address. But I think we address them through those kind of issues and those kind of ways.
About the funding of Navicent, some people say that the county shouldn't. How do you feel about that?
Well, we had a forum at Navicent already with I guess several of the mayoral candidates, and I specifically told Navicent that I could not foresee, at least during my initial time as mayor, that I would give Navicent any money. We have to get our house in order first and get financially stable first. You know, the person who lives out in Lizella who's worked a 4-day of work and they go home and sit back on the couch, watch Andy Griffith, and that's the exact same what I gave them. They don't understand that, you know, Navicent may have these millions of dollars of retained earnings, what they do for the community, and you can't educate them when we're getting a 3-meal tax increase every day. So until we get out of the kitchen as far as that's concerned and able to lower taxes and buy better services, we're not going to be able to give the Navicent some money. Navicent has a foundation that does wonderful things for our community, and perhaps we could give some money to Navicent that's used for purposes that Bibb County needs to provide, like the homelessness situation. So it's an indirect way we could fund some money for Navicent, so they can actually let the state know that, hey, they are supportive of us, they do provide money for us. But you can't do that when you get a 3-meal tax increase every year, and I certainly haven't promised Navicent anything. I was the only candidate there at that forum that said I would not give you any money. And I think they respect it for that, because The mayor wanted to give money, and the county commission said no. So you have to have, you know, people that are going to work with you. And that's one thing I will say, and I know we've gone over our time, but as mayor, I'm going to have 5 to 6 people that are going to be working with me. It's not going to be a situation where I have to worry about doing a veto or having somebody overriding a veto, because we're going to work together. And, you know, there are people that are running out there that I think have the same vision and same mindset that I have. And I think you're going to see a new day with people working together. You're not going to see a divided county commission like you've had with this mayor for the last term at least, for people doing political posturing. I think you're going to have 5 or 6 going to work together, and hopefully the other 2 or 3 are going to come on board and have a lot more input there.